Does this not feel a little psyopy to anybody else? This entire situation with Diddy, and not just Diddy, but Harvey Weinstein, Bill Cosby, all of the men who, for the past, let's say, better part of the decade, have been getting completely thrown under the bus for relationships that they previously had. And there's just this overwhelming sense from many on the internet and in the media that somehow, it's comparable to all the other high profile cases that we've seen from Johnny Depp and Amber Heard to OJ back in the day. I mean, these situations have always, it's always the media that's pushing all of it forward. That it's the media. It's the insistence of the media that pushes this into the cultural zeitgeist. And as we've seen since the Me Too, the decimation of the Me Too movement, and the like. Hold on, yeah. So some of the people, like, this was the scene outside of the court situation, outside of the courtroom, where a lot of people on the internet are like, "Oh yeah, the Boondocks predicted this," because yeah, there was definitely a lot of hold on, coonery and buffoonery taking place. Here we go. Outside of the courtroom, and so, guys, this has all been just one gigantic psyop. And it always tends to come back around to quote unquote black Americans, where, oh, this is quote unquote our culture, right? I'm saying quote unquote a lot, but I'm saying it for a good reason because it's not. See, what you're witnessing is a projection, right? I mean, there's always going to be people of various colors, that are willing to participate in a ton of just boonery coonery and buffoonery for attention, because attention is a currency in and of itself, and they don't care what they got to do to get 15 seconds of fame. They're going to do exactly that. So, to sit here and say, yes, this is, the African American culture or anything else like that is ultimately just ridiculously disingenuous, because we need a lineage check on all these morons. We need to figure out who all these people are and what their background is, because we've been just allowing any old person to come into this country, declare themselves quote unquote black, and take, I don't want to say credit or merit from the history of black American slavery and the like. We allow them all to drink from that chalice, but real talk, no, no, not all y'all need to be drinking from that chalice, because that's just not everyone's history here in the country, right? Am I wrong? I don't believe so. But due to forces beyond our collective control, the narrative is always set from that angle. I could give, ultimately, guys, I could give less of a damn about the entire situation. But if you look at it, right, Cassie yourself, like, before the Mann Act and all in the Me Too era legislation slip, where they've changed the laws, whereas now there's no statute of limitations, and you don't need to have police reports, you don't need to have evidence, you just need to have someone's word. I mean, let's be real, a woman's word. It's yeah, it's bonkers. See, whatever actually happened is for God to deal with ultimately, right? But because our media insists upon throwing these things in our face, well, we're kind of stuck with the sideshow and the circus. And one of the things that all these different the legislative angle of this did was it turned witnesses who are non-credible into witnesses that they were happy to put in front and say, yeah, oh my goodness, this is a problem. Like when the moment that the prosecutors learned that Cassie, the text where Cassie was like, yeah, let's go and FO and find out, right? Let's go have our freak offs and the like. As soon as that, like, you find out that the person that's making the complaint was a willing participant, and it went further than that, where she wanted this child and she really wanted to be locked in because of the financial security, being with such a man provides. Then it's like, yeah, I can't, like a good, like, I don't want to say me because I'm not a prosecutor. I've never been a prosecutor, but I mean, just as a moron with an AA in criminal justice, I'll be like, no, you can't put that in front of the stand. It was the exact same thing that happened with Harvey Weinstein. Many of the women whose testimony that they used in order to get the conviction on Harvey Weinstein, like, these were women who maintained long-term relationships with them, and that by itself makes you a not credible witness. But because we have a media that insists upon pushing these things to us and pushing and putting people in front of us who don't know what the fuck they're talking about, right? We now have a culture and a society that is more than willing to just, who are honestly not even more than willing, don't particularly have the capacity to let that switch click in their head. Like, that's one of the biggest problems that we have, is that a lot of people just don't think to think. It's not even that people aren't thinking anymore. People aren't even thinking to think. So, and a lot of that has to do with feminism and the overabundance of single mother households, of women who have been raising these young men to also think to also release multiple layers of thought. I mean, we used to say all the time, you give something a second thought, third thought, fourth thought, like, really chew on things. And I'm sorry, it's like a lot of people within the confines of the country, and particularly with the help of the media, don't have the teeth to chew at all, if that makes any sense. So, guys, when it comes to this whole Diddy situation, it really is just a psyop. It really is just a pretty distraction from the fact that, I mean, a lot of really awesome things are happening. Congo and Rwanda, they're apparently chilling out. That whole war with Iran thing, how fast was that, huh? I mean, it was expedient. There's been so much going on. It's part of the reasons why, like, I'm not really doing a ton of content like that anymore, but I figured, while I was had some time to sit here on Twitter, and I've been going back and forth on this because, once again, Dave Chappelle said it best. How do you have somebody in a RICO case by themselves? How do you convict somebody, of trafficking willing adults and participants? Like, there wasn't even like any kids, and you're bringing all these anonymous and random people. These anonymous and random people do not make for good witnesses. I'm sorry, that's just what it is. But our legal system is completely infiltrated by this feminist and emotional type mindset, which will, and that's the thing about the emotions, fellas, the estrogen side, it can't particularly stand up to the same scrutiny. It will never stand up to the same scrutiny as testosterone and the masculine side, and the logical side can. That's the whole point. One's just, oh my goodness, don't you feel angry? Doesn't the video of Diddy going after Cassie just break your heart and make you want to da da da? Hold on, there it is. Yeah, I mean, it's like, yo, yikes. It does. It really does. But that's the problem. Once you bring it in front of the court of law, right, and you need that logic to stand on, there's nothing there. Because guess what? Despite the fact that she got her ass whooped, she kept going back. And that's ultimately where, a lot of this stuff falls apart at. Once again, you didn't have the witnesses. You really didn't have the case that you thought you had. So, I mean, it is what it is. But guys, let me know what you think in the comments, all right? Till next one.
Your boos mean nothing. I've seen what makes you cheer. Every recognition raises my self-esteem.